All right, so today we're gonna talk. This is our get it done call, and instead of me showing you really any slides, I figure auto actions are so detailed that we need our entire hour really to focus on achieving them, getting them working for you or moving you forward so that we can have better conversations offline. Um, and did, um, I mentioned last time someone had asked about why would you ever use an auto action to add a checklist? What would be the purpose when you can do it on the checklist as well? And so, of course, this week a couple of support questions came in, which absolutely made sense for them. Caitlin, your question came in, and somebody else, but either way, so I want to talk to you about that because while yes, you can do it, I still not sure that I think it's the most advantageous way of doing it. Wow. And okay. Thanks, Steve. I'm gonna stay focused on the call. So well, now I've ruined it. So Steve is saying it's great in Bemidji, regardless of how it's been in the past. He's having clear skies, which is fantastic. Um okay, guys, well, I can start, or I actually would rather maybe start with you. We had our call last week. What kind of questions have come up since so that we can really make sure to address those? Kathy, Kathy Brennan, I'm getting now confused. If your name is Kath, I'm assuming your first name is Kathy, but I'm calling you Brennan on the emails.
That's fine, no problem.
Okay, I did. Somehow the communication is coming in, making it look like your first name. So, um, do you want to start with again? Would you be okay? I know I've asked you for the specific auto action and the specific a client record. Could we look at that information? And when I go back and address the video, I could block out client information. Do you want to share that with us so that I can help you through that?
Sure. Actually, Karsten, I think, resolved the problem. I don't know if you
Okay,
saw an email from
I
him
did.
that it was user error. It wasn't a problem with the program.
Okay.
I had the trigger. We have all of these expiring documents,
hmm
and it was a notification for an expiration of auto insurance,
Yep.
and my trigger was auto registration, which is
Right.
a
Okay.
totally different field.
It was okay. So it was just the field that was incorrect. Could we look
So
at
yeah,
the
I had
auto
picked the
action?
wrong field in the trigger.
Might we look at the auto action
Sure.
for you? Oh, that's the auto. Nope. It was sending an email.
Yes.
And which one is it? Actually, let me do this so I can look at those that are updating a field. So lots of them. You guys use these a lot.
Yeah, we have to do some cleanup though. Some of it.
It's just old.
Um,
Yep, that happens. So do you want to share with me which one of these it is?
the yeah, it's called, and I just had it up. Adoption dash domestic and guardianship cases dash expiring auto insurance 2.
Okay. So this was sending an email out to the family.
Yes.
So right? Okay. So and what it sounded like then, because I only because I can't see it as well through an image.
Uh,
The images absolutely, you guys, when you send support, totally help me to really visualize what you're seeing. But on an auto action, if or anywhere really you are, it will help me to provide the URL so I can get right to it, so I can see it full screen and I can sort of poke around like what is this field doing in other places of the system. That's how I research. Um, so the way that they've set this up is when this particular field, so this is a little different than checklist items, but they've got a particular field that has, it looks like it's just when the
yeah,
expiration
there
notification is sent.
we
You guys
kind
are,
of have to have, yeah, we kind of have to have two auto actions for every expiring field. One is, has it expired?
Uh-huh.
And the other is, when was the last time we sent them an email? Because you don't want to send them an email every day. So one says, here's when we sent the last email.
Okay.
And then there's a time gap. And if it's still, the system looks at it every day, but
Got
an
it.
email won't get sent until it goes past 10 days or 1 month.
Okay. Okay.
And then the second, we don't want to send them an email every day. We want to send them an email, give them time to work
Complete
on
it.
it.
Well, and that's interesting then, because something you might consider
Mm-hmm.
as an alternative to having two for everyone, especially if you ever decide to build these again, is to have these go off once a week rather than every day, something like that.
Oh, how
And
do you do that?
it would be on this is actually when it's when this particular date is updated, right? So you're having to enter that date, but it would be, instead of on the trigger being on an update of a field, it would be on a schedule. So setting it weekly,
Oh,
and the filter would be when the auto expiration date notification sent, or when that when the expiration, let's say, is past due, and if you had another field that says that it's resolved, which maybe it sounds like you're almost overriding
right,
the data when you have, like, you no longer care about the old expiration date, right? It's in the past. You
right.
just are
Once they
concerned with
get
the new one.
cases closed, it
Got it.
doesn't meet criteria.
Yep. Yep. And okay. Um, okay. Well, I'm glad that this one resolved. Um,
But I would like to,
mhm,
it would cut our auto action list in half if we
mhm.
didn't have two auto actions for every expiring field.
Right. Yeah.
So
So,
I would prefer to do it
mhm.
on the
Yep. I
triggers
think I'm a
schedule.
little bit confused, and what I need to do is go into here to kind of figure out what's going on. I'm going to go right here at insurance expiration, Control C, right here, come here, Control F. It
Yes,
sounds like to
and then
me like you've
the
got
other
two
auto
fields.
action, we set that once it gets triggered that the insurance expiration date is not empty. We set the notification, once a notification is sent, we set that to the current date. So when we
This
send a
one.
notification on June 3rd, that notification sent date equals June 3rd.
Okay. I think there's a little bit more because you've got dual going on that I'm just not understanding. This
Yeah,
update
and I didn't
notification sent.
create these
Yeah, so this is
cartridges.
every day, and this is all sort of like, if when this is a month in the future,
Yes.
including the past, so that one's a little bit um
Well, believe it or
open-ended.
not, yeah, sometimes people have auto insurance actually expired 2 weeks ago, even though they've started their adoption process now. So you have to
Um,
kind of catch some of the old stuff, at least a month old.
there's a lot of stuff for us to keep
Yeah,
up
I
with.
didn't create it. So
Yeah. So it is not, yeah, when it starts to get a lot of things, I actually don't know if I can do this on the spot,
yeah,
because there's
that's
so many
fine.
things. The reason all of these filters are here is you must have lots of different programs going on. And so
Yes,
it's any or these.
yes,
And you must have some that it doesn't need to trigger for. Like,
yes,
yeah. So,
yes,
sometimes when I see lots of filters, I might also recommend sometimes the opposite, to reduce what you're pulling for. It's
right.
really incredibly agency specific as what you guys have labeled these case types or case programs as, but basically saying when it's not closed and it is any of these, and it must be within the month in the future.
Yes,
This is not yet entered,
yes,
and then or it's over
Yes.
10 days, or so it's either empty or it is
We sent them the email 10 days ago.
over in the past. And so this is going to send an email. No, this is just updating the date
The
so that
notification
this
sent date.
email, this triggers the email to go out again if it needs to.
Yes.
I'm curious, when you add a new auto insurance and you enter the expiration date, what's happening then? Is it updating? Yeah, you.
Well, the other auto action, I think, covers that. The
Sorry.
This is the notify client. There's one that's called auto insurance to notification sent. Notification date, something notification. Oh, update notification date.
Yeah. And I'm thinking the
So
way that you guys are doing it though, like because auto insurance expires every 6 months, right? Or every year. So it depends on when we pay it, right? You're every time your families, you're going into the same field and you're updating that field to enter, you're updating the expiration date again. You're
right,
overwriting it, right?
right. And then it would look to see, is that 1 month in the future? And it's not. It's 6 months in the future because we just put in a new date.
Right. So this one is not happening then when you
Right.
add it. So it won't happen again because this is happening every day. It won't
Yes.
happen for 5 more months or whatever.
Yes.
Curious if anybody else is following along with this, because sometimes auto actions are tricky. It really is dependent on the way that you decide to use the system. So I talk less about sort of overriding today a date like a Love Beyond Borders has been using SAM for probably 12 years, something like that. And more, I guess today I talk more about the document record or the checklist record. Does anyone else do things like this? I think Heather with Madison's not on, and I think they do things like this. Steve, you might do some things on licensing like this potentially. Curious if anybody does this or if people are following along. Because it's
No, we don't have anything like this, I don't think. I think I used to, but I changed it and tried to make it so that I could do everything within one auto action. So for something like this, I would probably just schedule it to occur. Obviously we're not checking daily. We're just doing it maybe once every 2 weeks. And that email will keep going out until something happens, until I enter that I received whatever I needed from somebody.
right, because that's one of the things is on the schedule if you have it, which is what's really I love about this is Karsten was probably one of the first like really good SAM admins because A Love Beyond Borders has been using SAM for so long that he took it and ran. And so it takes me a little bit to kind of pick up with what are we working with anymore. But it's sort of a neat way that he's set it up. And I think Kathy, you will like because it may not be of a great value to adopt or to change the process now, like do something new, that this may be for those expiring documents the way if you find that there's another expiring document you need to set up like this. Yeah. Unless you want to change the process for anything in particular, this may not apply, just may not apply this dual for everything. But I think that you will need to have, like to Steve's points, you have to have something in it that often says it's satisfied. So when does the auto action stop? Especially when it's scheduled. So in this case, these guys have it for when the case stage is closed. We know they no longer want it to happen, and the fact that this being within a month, when they overwrite it with a new date where the future is far ahead, it's also a stopgap for it, so it won't continue. We did talk about executing more than once, and this is a great example where obviously, because it's a field that's being updated, it does have to be updated more often, or this auto action has to repeat more than once for this family, right? So every 6 months, we're wanting it to repeat until the case is closed. So execute more than once would equal yes. I'm going to move on. Kathy, do you feel satisfied with that for now? Cool. Excellent. Does anyone else have anything that they want to talk specifically about or ask questions on?
So I do.
Hey, Karen.
I set up an auto action so that when contracts receive date was entered, it would trigger an email to send out a home study packet.
Okay.
But I think I need some help looking at filtering because I got 1,044 emails. Like every single client who had a contract date, suddenly emails were being generated to send a home study packet. So
Okay.
just peeking at that if anybody else has a problem with that.
Yep. So one thing, so that's sort of that, when does it start, right? You might, because you had a data import, we want things to happen going forward, not in the past.
Right.
So you might have put a filter on there of the contract received has got to be greater than, let's just say January 2021, right? Something like that, right? And maybe you wanted it to start December, but that would have stopped it.
So I had to disable it because it was out of control.
And it will be. So let's look at it. It's disabled. Thank you.
Yeah, it's disabled.
Okay. And so it's sending an email.
Mm-hmm.
And do you want to show me which one that it is?
Email
family link to checklist?
Nope.
Well, that's kid stuff, so it's got to be up in here.
The top section, Stephanie, I think.
Oh, is it this?
I'm trying to see it.
Do you see it, Steve?
The second to the last one in that section, is that what it is?
When the information packet is sent?
No. Maybe I re-enabled it
Or
something.
maybe you deleted it.
Maybe I did delete it.
Freaked out and deleted it.
I might have deleted it. It was pretty bad. I couldn't even do anything in SAM because I couldn't get.
It's not under home study?
It might be under.
Let's look over here. As I looked
Oh, this is
here,
great.
Was it this? The home study
Sorry,
packet
everybody.
sent. So I like this one, and this is the one that I want to talk to you guys about because it does.
Right,
it
fine.
sounds like it relates to what you're trying to do, and it relates to what inserting the checklist section, which is what Caitlin was trying to do. Same concept. It has to do with these situations where we're actually you're switching from the case to the home study, or and that's going to be the biggest one because the home study is a process, but there's just the transition point that seems to be sticky for folks. And so in the way that I think about this is anytime we transition, we have to communicate, right? So what I hear almost always when people are setting up that initial process with the home study is, well, we get paid, or they come to an orientation, they fill out the application is paid for, and then we send them an email and we start the home study process. Now, the same concept minus the orientation and the fee being paid happens when you do a home study update or a renewal of a license, for example. You are always going to send a message to the family that it's time to start. The message may be different, right? The message one on the original home study is, welcome to our home study process. Here's how we're going to get started. The update of the home study is, hey, it's time to renew your home study. Here's how we get started, right? The concept is the same of here's how we do it, but the messaging is different, and SAM can support that. So I want you to think about like the process starts at that communication, and whether you're sending that email, which is what Karen's doing, or you're adding a checklist section, which is what Caitlin wants to do, your process for the home study is started. And so what I like to recommend is you actually have let me go into my site here. You have an auto action that inserts a home study record or a license record. And then we start sending emails or inserting checklists based on this record, because you need this record for this, a placeholder for this process to exist in the database before you can actually do it. So I make mine very simple based off application receive date, because everybody has that. But what I do is insert the home study record, where I always have home study packet sent date equaling the day that the application's received. Because I think, Karen, if I understood, you're saying it on the contract, it doesn't matter what your trigger is, but when that contract is received, you wanted to send that email. That's what I understood you were wanting to do, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if instead of we want to, when the contract is entered, let's send an email, we're actually needing to start a whole process, right? Because Karen, I am understanding you that you are wanting them to get started on the home study, right?
The email was actually supposed to go to a staff person to send the home study packet to the client.
Okay. Same concept though, is that it's like you want to notify somebody it's time to start that home study, right?
Yes.
That was it.
Yes. Yes, that is it. Correct.
So we need that, again, that placeholder. When I say a placeholder, what I'm talking about is here on the family, we need a space for the home study. So I'm clicking home studies on the side. We need this, right? We need one of these records to be here. So we've got all a room in the system for all of these other all these other processes that happen for this spot. So what I like to suggest to people, and what I recommend, is when you're transitioning from the case, let's actually insert a record. So we've got the placeholder and we're setting a date. I've called it this packet sent date. I call it sometimes the process start date, as again, sort of a placeholder, so that we're dating it in accordance with another date to just open that record up. That could be, and then this becomes the date that now, Caitlin, if you have a home study record, your checklist section that relates to home study will open, and it'll be properly linked between this, I'm pointing to my screen, but this record and the checklist section that it connects with. And for Karen, it would be your home study packet is being, if it's not home study, maybe you're assigning that person at that point in time to say, hey, you have a home study record that we want you to start working on.
I'm a little confused,
Okay.
but I don't think that that's what our home study section is set up to do. It's mostly like the prep work for before we even start the home study.
Yep. Let me
take a look at our...
and gosh, there we are. Karen, your home study, your notification was going to, I'm going to go into this checklist section, and then, Caitlin, you'll let me know which checklist item to go to. But for Karen, you were wanting to notify the home study worker or the social worker that it's time to start. Who were you attempting?
It's actually me. Like an admin person enters the contract date and then the email was coming to me.
Okay, so that's, well, and that then all seems like, because I can't see, I no longer can see your auto action, I can't fix it, if that makes sense, right? Like I don't know what it was.
That's fine.
So let's do this. Do you still have the template that exists?
I probably do.
Okay. So I'm just titling this auto action because I want to do both. And then I'll go look, Caitlin, at yours. If you'll find for us what the
Yeah, sure.
the checklist sections are, then I'll be ready to address that when we get done here. So it's updating of a field, Karen, and for you, it's on the case, right? And it's the contract receive
Yep.
date.
Mm-hmm. That's the one, contract and payment received date.
Okay. And then do you have a, so I'm going to move from here. Instead of adding other filters, we may come back to this if we need to. I'm going to push through that. Do you have a template that was built? Contract
You
and
can
payment
pick any
received?
if you want to just use any template just for this. If I don't have one, I can't remember.
And this is going out to, tell me your email address.
It's kcasper@allforchildren.org.
Okay.
I thought I did do a template.
I did find one that mirrors that.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that was it.
don't know why you had so many records. So what this is showing us is all the records that have this date entered in the system so far. So I don't, of course, again, I can't go backwards to it. When you click here, and so it seems like maybe you had a different date selected, potentially. And you may have had it on a schedule because an update of a field is going to require a specific action to happen right then and going forward after the auto action is built. So if you built this auto action, let's say last week, you've been a couple months since the data migration was done. So that's right. Like that's not affecting it. These are the records, right? These are the family records that have it. You can go into their record to check that they have this date, but this should be going forward. Do you know where that field exists? You guys are cleaning out so quick for me that I can't go in and change it at the moment, unless I add a whole family record to kind of show that this would then happen, right?
Okay.
It will only happen from this point forward once you have
Perfect.
A 15th person. I do not believe that it's going to actually affect any of these folks that are on here.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Let me jump over to these guys. So here in your checklist section, and then maybe once I get this going for Caitlin and we get a good understanding of this, I do want to go back to that other concept because the majority of the information you guys are capturing are small processes enveloped in the case. And there's this tendency to want the case to update a record or do something. And sometimes it's not the proper spot. So talk to me, Caitlin, about what is the checklist section that you wanted to add.
It's directly below the application. So it's called the home study process.
This team home study process?
Yeah. And this is stuff that we really only do for the very first home study. It's not the actual update process is different. So at least this stuff would only ever happen once, but I can't get this section to enter automatically.
Right. So I'm going to almost guarantee you that this section is based off the home study. Even if you do this part once, it's still if it's part of the home study, I am almost always going to recommend that you put it on the home study table. That's why the tables in SAM, are called what they're called, is to be clear for you of use this table is really what it is. So, and remember, because there are the ability to filter, you can say, this happens when we do the home study packet sent date, let's say, but the home study type must equal the original home study. So it actually will only open once. It won't open on the updates, the home study update. So
Okay.
the couple ways that I could tell what this section is based off of is over here. It tells me what section table. So it's based off the home study, which is why here to automatically enter, you only have home study fields to select from. You don't get a case field, which is on the last call I talked about. You can add a checklist section, and why would you use an auto action instead? And I actually think Sam should probably be eliminated for this. But we could have an auto action say when the contract receive date is entered, insert the team home study process checklist section. It will do it, but it will not link to a home study record if you don't have one existing. And so your data will be orphaned. It will not actually be linked to a specific home study record, which is why you need to initiate the home study placeholder as and think of it as a process, not as like a single document. It is a whole slew of things that get done, right?
So we would need auto actions that would link the home study process with this table, because we kind of just want this table to show up like basically right away. Like we want them both visible at the same time.
These two.
Yeah, pretty much, because
Okay.
they're so closely tied, and it's unfortunately reasonably common that the two things tend to happen. Like there's steps in the application that happen at or during the same time as some of the team study home process.
Okay. So I'm going to look, I've opened up this field, and right when I talked to Kathy Brennan about sending links, it's because I utilize this, and I think maybe like Steve Carson probably would. Some of the people who are have just gotten used to Sam and seen me working on it a lot. This is the field property screen, and it tells me everything about this field that's happening right in the system. And what I'm going to look at first is the auto actions down here. So on the application received, I've got no auto actions, which is fine, but I think we're going to change that, and we're going to add some. So over here in auto actions, I do want to check on the home study, because I've told it, right, just in us working together and setting things up, when to insert the home study. And we've actually got it on the fee received, which is fine. This can be changed. And so if you see, Caitlin, what we had set up is when the fee is received, we're going to insert a home study record where the home study type equals the home study. So it's not the updated home study.
Okay.
And we're setting a particular date that we'd called packet 1 sent, which is that it is the very first thing here. So this this section is actually the home study record that associates with this section, right, is based off the fee being received. We can change it to being the application received. We insert a home study record, and it inserts this section, and it will enter this date. And this date, they then may send that communication, which is what a lot of times is starting to happen at that point.
Okay, so it's two auto actions, one to input and then one to send the packet 1 out automatically.
Yeah, so auto actions can only do one action at a time. So let me change this. So to adjust, you always use the green pencils, and I'm going to choose instead the application receive date. I am going to have to adjust the filter because the fee may not be entered when the application is received. So I've got to change it to that, to the application receive date is not empty. Okay, so that's going to happen. And we'll actually go through this, and I'll show you with a test record, or show everybody here what this is doing all at the same time. And then over here on this section, I'm going to set it based on this, when the packet 1 sent date, because that's the field on the home study that's being entered at the exact same time as the application received. Home study, oh no, packet 1 sent date. That's what's initiating it. Now, the last thing that I'm going to do on this is say, because Caitlin told me that this is only happening for the first home study, right? It's not going to happen for an updated home study. We're not going to be sending this particular packet. The home study type must equal the home study. So when you go to do an updated home study, which I will do all of that here now to show everybody how that functions, this section is not going to show up because that is just for the first part. That's what this filter is doing. Okay. So I'm going to create a new family record. I'm going to add a family here. And let me just double check actually I can go here. So we really start on the application receive date. Great. Okay. Come on and click. And so this is going to be a Stephanie InReach test. And I am going to enter, that will be fine. I think that's all I need here. I think I can enter the application receive date from the home page right here. So doing this is going to trigger, it's going to right? We have no home study record right now. So it's going to insert a home study record, and it's going to insert 2 checklist sections that the application and the team home study process is what this one entry of the field is going to do. And it's sending emails. So maybe this one is this the packet 1? It sure looks like it. Packet 1 sent date. That's also happening, which we must have already set that up as well.
Yes, this one we set up. We're going to edit some of the wording a little bit because a lot of things obviously have changed thanks to COVID. But yeah, we already set that one up.
Okay, so we've got a home stay record. Sorry, and I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. On those auto actions, that is one that is confirmed before sending. So it's telling me, which gives me an opportunity to edit it, but I just canceled that out because it was bugging me from what I needed to do. You guys have put in the application receive date. It's a case field. So if we have an updated home study, it's also going to say application received of 12/9. Okay, every time, because it's the same date. Packet 1 sent date is auto-filled from that insert home study record. And then over here on our checklist, I right-clicked, open a new tab. I've got the application section and this, plus apparently there's a lot of other sections that open. So Caitlin, all of these things are opening at this point in time. They're all, I assume, are based on, and I can confirm them, they're all based on packet 1 sent, right? So basically your entire checklist section is populating at the same time, which is fine.
So that's probably why we set it to when the fee is received for the first one. That makes sense. I'll fix that later. Okay.
So let's look at this. So going forward, right? This one will only show up when you add an updated home study. This section is not going to show up. Now, it seems to me by reading this information that you probably don't need this section to show up either, because it's about packet 1. Just because you've labeled it. And this I don't really know. So let's look at this. Okay. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to add a new updated home study. So we're a year in the future or 10 months, and we're going to be adding an updated home study. And this I need to look at because I don't, it looks like you've got a application received on the home study also, is what I'm assuming.
Yeah, just for reference.
But I would bet it's a different field. If it's on the case, it should already be entered right here. That's what's I'm pretty sure. I need to check that because it shouldn't overwrite it. Let's see. So now I've got an updated home study with a new date. So let me check this date field on the case. That's a little funny. I don't understand that because now it's messed with here. I think that's going to have to go off, Caitlin, that you could have the application receive date up here or something, but it's now, I'm almost positive now that, and I think that's a little funny. What did it do? It's like
We've been finding that's happening a lot with different things, even things that we know for sure are on the same.
Mhm.
Um,
Need to look at it because I'm betting there's something off about that because it's a case field. It shouldn't yeah, it shouldn't have done it shouldn't do that. So I'm a little confused. And I'm gonna need to play with that. But I think it's in the wrong spot. Down here, we're gonna see, so we've got all of these, and this home study type being home study is what's done it. Now, this section, right, a year later would be done, and we would be looking at this updated home study
mhm.
for packet one, but we do not have it at all for this team home study process. That is only showing up because you only need it. But even though you actually need it for an updated home study based on what these items are.
Okay. I don't think we need a lot of those application documents when the home study updates either. A lot of these are one-off documents we don't need again.
Right. So this section then can be updated to say home study type does not equal or
Okay.
only equals home study. It doesn't equal updated home study.
Okay, I'm going to make a note, so I'll go back and do that.
Right. So if you want things to show up only on the original home study, it needs to be filtered as such so that it doesn't continue to show up all these other times. But like identification documents may or may not. I mean, again, these sort of seem like they don't. This driver's licenses will go into expiring documents, right? And you'll get a new expiring document. I don't even know what that is. But
It's a firearm card.
got it. Okay. But then these documents, yes, if this is sort of things that are happening only once, we'll have this criteria on it that will limit it, right? Same concept of that point in time when you want the emails to stop, you've got to tell it when you want it. I want it to go until, or I only need this section when.
Okay. Got it.
And I think that's pretty positive this field needs to come off of the home study record. It looks to me like it's being this is being used as the add, edit, and the view, and it is removing that field. So let me double check here. I'm going to look here and make sure you don't have any other show table titles, any other case data on the home study. That will stop it. So this should have been 12 today, because that's what it was. And if I look at it, I wonder if, yeah, so entering it here 3 minutes later on when I added that home study record, it had it being shown on there. It was empty. I feel like it should have been shown, but it was empty. And so it set it as blank. So that's what we'll be throwing it off. So if you want it to be shown on the home study, it can be shown on the top. Let me go here, right? Not in this subform here about each home study record, but adding here and putting it up at the application receive date up here, right? So it could be shown there. It wouldn't be able to be shown on each one. unless the only thing that could be happen for us is if we separate out the add edit forms from the view form for the home study, which I can also do, and then you could have the application shown up there. I know that's confusing, but if you want that set up, we can do it. So you can let me know and I can make some adjustments.
Yeah, I think we probably do, just because I think it was some of my coworkers who requested that application date. But I guess, I mean, if they're all going at the same time, it's a bit irrelevant. So I'll talk to them about it and
Okay.
see what we can do.
Okay. Does anyone else have things, auto actions that they're trying to build? I think, Steve, did you have one that you were working on?
No,
What's we're going to talk about?
I had some questions that we'll talk about tomorrow, just about the portal and inability to access certain forms as a sidebar link that I feel like I should have access to. Just wondering
Okay.
maybe what's going wrong.
I'm betting on that. It is, the form is based on a different table.
Yeah, I think they're all on the case, so I think I should be good. But,
Okay,
but
then
I
we'll
don't
look
know.
at it.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have auto actions that you want to talk about?
I do have one other thing, I guess. When the discussion of the portal started, before it was ever made available to people, I think one of the things you were talking about was using it for sending a message out to everybody. Maybe there's like a little messenger that you can build within the portal, and where you can exchange messages with providers and they can send things back to you from their portal instead of using email. And there was a talk about sending like there's a training on a certain day, send that out to everybody's portal. Have you worked on anything like that yet?
And everybody's portal. The only way that you could get something like that is to insert a communication record on everybody's, on whatever families need it, right? Because it sort of doesn't, you wouldn't like pulling a report saying all active families, I want to insert a communication record. And thank you very much, because this is a perfect segue into what I was working on before that I did want to show you. So in the checklist section, this is the family portal, right? So this is my example of the family portal. I'm happy to help you set them up. Okay. So the family portal is kind of a welcome spot. And then there's a checklist, because we're sort of focused on the communications. There was a particular communication from last time that I couldn't get, and I still can't get it. And I'll explain why in a second, but, I built sort of a workaround this morning so that your team can still communicate with you. So I think as far as what Steve's talking about, it sounds to me like you're saying you want to send a message or put a communication on your family's records. And actually, let me not show it here. Let me show it over here on this screen. On your family's records that say, we're having an orientation, click here to sign up, right? Or something like that, right? We've got this CPR training is going to be held this day. If you need it, come join.
Right.
Okay. So that if your team is going to communicate to the family and you wanted to add it here, it would be a bulk insert from a report. And you're inserting a communication record with several different data points. Because you don't want to add every communication record on the family portal for your families. Let me see if this is it. This will get me where I want it. The sub form, right? Let me see here. Don't I have annotate? Let me get draw, right? This is a sub form about documents. I don't even know what that one is. That's parent education. And then this one here is a separate subform about communications. And I can create lots of different subforms to show subsets of this greater communication list, right? So over time, we're going to have hundreds, if not thousands of communications with a family, and to show them all here would be overwhelming for them. It's overwhelming for any of us, right? We have to have it as an agency because we have to retain that history, but the client may only need to see the last 10. They may only need, you may not want to share a communication that you had with a teammate about this family or the child, right? You want to share with them here communications that are specific that you want to share with them. So when you're building, clear all that and get this out of here. When you're building the communication, we've talked about this in a couple webinars. This communication subform, I've set up, you'll set up filters and decide what sort of how do you want to label the communication so it doesn't, so only specific ones will show to them. So in my system, I set up the communication topic type equals either we're updating the family on progress, right? Which is, Steve, when you're sending or inserting communication records from a bulk email, you would put the communication, you'll put the date, and you'll also update communication topic type equals new training announcement or something like that. And those will go into what you're willing to share with the family. I've also set the topic type equals a family's update from the portal. So when I'm on this family portal as the family themselves, when I click add, every time I type something here and press save, I have told on this form, I wanted to get to that real quick. I have told on this form or this add form, the system to automatically enter that data. So under automatically entered field values on this add form that we just looked at, I told Sam, always enter maybe the date, because I don't care that the family needs, they don't need to enter that also. With the system can do that. And the communication topic type equals the family update from the portal. So last week, I did this once, and the reason I know now why the reason that it worked, where am I at? Let me go back here. I have been asked if I could send a message to, if the system can send a message to the social worker or the case coordinator every time like this application process section is done. So when this date and this date are entered, can the system automatically send a message? And I got it to work once, but the reason that it worked is because it was the only checklist section on that family's checklist, which was such a bummer. And that would be huge if it could work, and it doesn't work. So, and I've also tried this morning, what I was thinking is, okay, well, if, right, oh man, I've already gotten out of Caitlin's stuff. If Caitlin's agency set up the checklist sections to open more timely. So that application section opens when the application is received. The family completes those things. And then when the fee is received, then the home study record gets inserted and another section populates, so that you're limiting what the family does. The family interacts with the family portal a lot, but they're only coming, they see certain things, your team gets notified. I think that there's another setting in the auto actions sort of in the background that it won't trigger more than once a day. So I just don't think it's going to work. So I still was not able to get another auto action out. Like if I had very specific checklist sections at a time opening, we don't show the family the next thing until such is done. Basically, it's expecting that every single thing here get entered, and then it will send an email. You generally want to be notified before that. And so that's just not going to work. So the next thing that I got as a workaround is to communicate with your families through the emails that you send. Nightlight has been on with us before and has shared that they have a 30-minute phone call with every family that gets taken to the family portal to communicate how to use it, and to tell the family when you're done with a section, let us know. So when I write, hey, we finished this section, the background checks section, yay, they press send, that will send an email, and the email then does get triggered to the social worker, and that happens. So it's based rather, let's see if this is it. Yes, this is it. It's based rather on the communication record when the communication topic type equals an update from the family, which you would want anyways, and you know what that communication says. So you know what to do. So I had set it up where it's just like they completed a checklist section, but we might just generalize it of the family's got a communication, and that social worker gets notified, or whoever you want to be notified about the communication gets entered. That is the best that I can do, I feel like, with the tools that I have at hand at this point.
I think that so I already have that built in where the messenger is in there. They can choose. I have a checkbox where they can choose case manager or licensor or both.
Oh,
And that determines who gets the email.
nice.
Or who gets the message who gets the notification that there's a message, and then they can go in communication and read it. But
could we look at it, Steve? Just the auto action?
You can.
Or the form?
Yes.
That's pretty dope.
I'll probably have to throw out there that occasionally there might be foul language when I message back and forth to myself, just joking around. So if you see anything that's maybe inappropriate, sorry.
I wasn't even gonna go to a record, but okay. That's fun.
I
think we could just look at the form would be kind of cool, don't you think?
Yeah, sure.
Do you have, so it's let me actually, no, I can't do that on here. The form, do you have it as a communication? How do you have it listed on?
It's
there it is, this add edit.
There we go, yeah.
So you've got a field that is message to, and then this message to is used as a filter on your auto action. But I guess it's not triggered or actioning on it. So
maybe I didn't even put that part of it in yet because I haven't implemented. I haven't had any families actually work with this yet.
Okay.
But in the communications, I did build that part where the communications are separated out on that family in its own section, just portal communication. You know what I mean?
You're saying on, so now we are going to see it. Are we going to look at another test?
No, just go to like Shirley and Steven, I think is one that I probably.
So you've got a sub form that's filtered on those specific communications that are coming in, and then who are they wanting to talk to there?
Right.
Yep. And so on the auto actions, like what I was showing, you could have, if another filter, if message to equals case manager, then you're messaging the case manager. If message to equals licensor.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so great. Yep. Or both. I can see that you've set it up as like a checkbox list.
Right.
Real cool.
So then, but we wouldn't be able to send, in order to do what I talked about at the beginning, we would have to just do, we'd have to use reports and use like a bulk insert.
Yes.
To send it. And I would be able to update everybody's communication in their portal with a specific message.
Everybody's communication in their portal. Yes. Mm-hmm. As long as that, and they will see it. So here on this form, it's how is this filtered, right? Because this is not going to be, so it's, yes. So you just need to set it as communication type equals portal communication. And I guess these are also set that way.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
A little off topic. Sorry about that. I didn't know if it was a auto action situation or bulk update. Okay.
Yep. So that is a bulk insert. Not a
Or a
bulk
bulk
update,
entry,
but
yeah.
a bulk
Yep, yep.
insert, because you're actually inserting records, which is the same concept of like, if, for example, like Karen is still on with Alliance for Children, we did a data migration back in October, and I think in some of the cleanup that I did to get the old data to sit with Sam, right? In the way that Sam relays data, it's like we'd have data that was added on the case, and if data existed in such a field, I would insert a background check record or insert a home study record and then move that data into it so that it mirrors more, instead of being a flat database, which is sort of what an Excel spreadsheet is. It's very flat. It allows that movement of a relational database that SAM is. So inserting records and updating records is huge when you have to do things for more than one family, or maybe more than 5 or so, right? You don't want to do the manual entry. And I don't think like an auto action will update going forward, but it updates like one by one going forward.
Right.
Yeah. We're past the hour. Sometimes these calls go on an hour and a half, but does anyone else that's on have auto actions that are bugging them and are interested in working on? Steve, did you have another one?
No, I don't.
Angela, did you unmute?
Oh yeah, perfect. Yeah, I did. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Okay, mine's more basic than what you guys are working on. I'm actually just trying to get those home study expired ones working.
Okay.
I can't see anything wrong with them, and it looks like the report is running, but I haven't gotten any emails yet.
What
So,
can we look at your auto action? What's your agency?
Zoe's house.
Oh, I don't even have, we don't talk to you guys often enough to.
I know this is my first time to join, so
let me go find your site and log in. Oops, move that down. Okay, so jump into your site and let's look at what's going on. Can I get out of there? Settings and then auto actions. So these home study expiring?
yeah, in the closed case, none of them have done what I want them to do. So,
Okay.
and it could be that my information, like I'm still working on filling in holes of what was brought over from the other one. And
Yep. Okay.
so I'd love to know that these are working right and that it's just a matter of getting my information if that's the case.
Yep. Okay. So let's look at this case closed. So for this, there is no filter on this. So it doesn't know what it's looking for. It doesn't know when that case finalized is updated.
Okay.
What does the value have to be to do anything? Does it so we need to just add on this, and which this must have been removed because it does it by default. The finalized date.
Yes, actually, I just removed it when I was playing with it while you guys were working on stuff. So I actually did just remove it to start trying to come up with a different issue, but.
Okay. So it changed. I think it said like 4 and 5 here a minute ago. Mm-hmm. It's got these folks. And so send an email. It's going to Brittany. So I'm going to I'm like going to ask you where to find that field, but I can look. So another thing that this tells me is what forms is this field on? So the case details on the cover page of a domestic family. So I'm going to add a family, test family record. I'm going to call it InReach and test. And I want to set it as the domestic, and that's that. So on here, when I send this, so this was what? I'm sorry, wrong one. Right. That is a different auto action. So let's go here. 34 records. One of the records has an extra case is what that is, right? So I'm going to go here and I'm going to enter the finalized date. And actually, enabled. Wait, do I have it as, I'm going to go ahead and set this right now to confirm so that we can see it. I think it will show it right here for me because I'm doing it. And I think that's what's going on right here. So it's happening. The only other thing that I can think of for emails if they're not actually being sent is that your default email sending settings and the email settings for your users is not working.
Okay.
That would be the next thing. So if you find that they're not working, default email sending settings under settings, we go in here, there is an opportunity to test. And I could do like inreachsolutions.com, and pretty quick we will see this. I think it's not working. That's what's not happening. It's not going out because the password for this isn't happening. So one of the challenges that we've had recently is Google Office 365, email in general, our tech scene, the whole thing is changes a lot, right? But email hacking and that kind of stuff goes on. So passwords just aren't enough anymore. So the connection with IMAP that Google has for applications like SAM is requiring an app password. So it's a little bit more secure. You have it for this specific application. And then should you be connected to your email through another application, you have to create another one for that. So it's very application specific. That's the way that they're handling it. I have noticed ours stopped working internally. I had to set up app passwords for everything and it works just fine. So we have support guides on that setup and how to do that through Gmail or Office 365. And if you have another provider, by and large, the majority of the providers or agencies we work with use one of those too. We can talk about it. It's really something that you've got to talk to with your email provider.
Okay.
Some of them have to be.
So I need to do that for each user then.
You do this one first.
Okay.
And this one here, like this is being sent from the system default. So a lot of your internal team notifications probably should just come from the default. So that is going to get a ton of them. Generally, it's when you're communicating with the family that you'll want it to come from the case coordinator or whoever, right? Whoever is working on it. And yes, then you would need to do it for every user as well. And it's user specific for that app password. So every user has to go in and set up an app password and enter that password instead of their email account password into the system so that the system connects directly with your email server using that password rather than your email password.
Okay.
It's a lot of fun, guys. Let me tell you, it's actually like, I actually did it this morning to make sure that the Get Started site that I've been working in functions. And it really isn't that bad once you do it 3 times, but the first time around, you can be like pulling your teeth out, kind of your hair, right? Don't pull out your teeth or your hair, but like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a little bit frustrating to find everything because we're not going into Google or Office 365 email settings very often. So where that information is, right, can be just difficult to find. But our guide actually walks you through. It's really not hard. Took me 2 minutes this morning to just double check and set everything up, and it worked just fine. The only other thing I could say about that, on your person, I'm going to go ahead and cancel that, and then I'll get rid of that record. Let's see, I'm here. All of your people will go here, advanced options, edit email settings, and that's where they can enter their app password.
Okay.
Which will be different than the info at, right? It's not the same one. It is a different one. It is the one that is set up. Like if I had an account with your agency, I will have my own app password from the info at.
Okay.
Except, and let me say last thing about that app password deal is, once I know for Google, because that's what we use, once it gives it to you, you need to save it because it will not do it. It will not give it to you again. It's not like your password where you can like do a retrieval. You just have to go through that process again and then update everything again. But the only thing you're updating, because it's application specific, is SAM. So it would be here or under settings in the default email sending settings. So
Okay.
that's what's going on for you guys, because that's triggering is what I needed to pull by that. This one I would bet is the same thing, because this is really the one I think it doesn't show who it was by, and it was 2010, so it was done by our team back in the day. It will function. You'll get that email again. Same issues going on.
Okay. So in the default email settings, where do I enter that app password? I'm not seeing it.
Yep, you enter it in the password when you reset.
Password for email account.
Yep.
Oh, got it.
Because
Okay.
it becomes your new password, your email password for this specific, for SAM, specifically for SAM. So
got
like
it.
in Gmail, when I set it up, I get to choose what application am I connecting to, or a custom, and I just name it SAM and put it here, and then it generates a number. And it's funny because it's in Google, at least, I think it's a 16 digit, but it's all lowercase, maybe alphanumeric, but it's all lowercase. So it doesn't even seem to conform to what they say is a high security password, but that's what works.
Okay,
And maybe
sounds
because it's
good. Thank
application
you.
specific. Yep, you're welcome. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. Family. And so that was actually, thank you for that question, because it was a perfect one.
Good. Thanks.
Anybody else on and still have questions? It looks like a lot of people have dropped off, so maybe we call it then.
I did just have one
Okay.
question about auto actions, and that's that we set up an auto action that causes an alert before we really knew what the filters and criteria did. So now everything has an alert on it. Is there a way to back that off, or just
No.
darn it?
No,
Okay.
there is
I
no.
kind of figured that was the answer.
Yeah, there is no mass delete, because you can imagine what kind of drama that would cause. So no, there is no mass delete. It is a 1-by-1 as you see it. Knock it off.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how that functions. Unfortunately. And Karen, I did want to say to you, because I didn't get it out in time, on the auto action, when it starts freaking out on you and you're like, oh no, this is not what I wanted, you can go open that auto action and cancel all unsent emails.
Instead of deleting the whole auto action like I did.
Yes,
Panicking.
yes. And I get the panic, right? You don't want all those emails going out, but this will stop everything was.
Okay, cool.
Okay. You're welcome. I know it's a lot. It certainly is practice. And I'm really happy to kind of, what I need, I guess, when you ask if you want support for it, you're always, of course, welcome to hit the support link and say, Stephanie or Sam team, what is it that I'm trying to do this? So kind of giving us some context of what you're trying to do, providing the URL so that we can get to it and see it, and then saying what you would like it to do so that we understand, because will be dropped into the middle of lots of different projects throughout the day. Letting us know that'll be really helpful. And links, like I said, they really help us to navigate your system much more quickly than just saying, I'm doing this auto action about sending an email, and I can find it probably, but it could add on 5 minutes or so of me toggling around trying to figure it out. That's what I have for you. Thank you so much, you guys, for joining.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I appreciate it. Take care. Happy holidays.
Bye.
And if you can join, we'll see you next week, same time.
Bye.
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 All right. Bye.